Hello, welcome to the VIP stage of Markt&Technik und Elektronik. My name is Anja Zierler and I'm an editor for Markt&Technik and responsible for the issue Obsolescence Management. Today I will welcome Ken Greenwood. He's a field sales manager at Rochester. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, nice. Ken, so first of all, can you explain in your own words what is obsolescence management?
Obsolescence management, really, the key word there is proactiveness. To manage a component from the point at which you design it in until the very last day you have to service your equipment and everything in between. If you manage that properly, you can avoid all sorts of unforeseen problems that come along and ultimately save your company money and reduce your risk. So absolutely proactive management of components.
Yes. Obsolescence has always been very important, but I feel like it's come more and more important. Why is obsolescence suddenly such a hot topic?
Well, there's never been so much of a difference between the product life cycle of a semiconductor and the product life cycle of a lot of equipment out there in the market today. We have many customers who are looking to support products for 10 and 20 years, and a semiconductor may well be in the market as little as 5 years. Someone has to fill that gap in between, and you have to manage obsolescence and how you cover all of that product life from end to end.
So do you have any tips how we can increase the awareness of obsolescence management?
Yeah, obsolescence management is regarded by most as a cost. But if you look at it at the start of a project, you look at the cost of obsolescence for the full life of that product, and you build in the resources and managements in order to support it. That way you can hopefully reduce your risk and your ultimate cost.
You already mentioned it, but is there any way for manufacturers to avoid obsolescence?
There is no way to avoid obsolescence if you have a product life cycle that is 10 or 20 years long. It's just inevitable that you will have obsolescence. Hopefully, if you plan it properly, you will know that it's coming. But there is no way to avoid obsolescence. So you have to manage and anticipate when those products are going to become obsolete, the components are going to become obsolete, and try to mitigate the risk and costs. Too often, companies have ignored it and decided that obsolescence isn't a problem they have to worry about until it becomes a huge problem. And if that happens, then you end up with line downs, massive redesigns that you're not expecting, and cost and risk to your business. So you have to manage obsolescence in a controlled way. And unfortunately, that means line by line. You will have an obsolescence for the smallest of parts, and it will stop your delivery to your end customer. So you have to manage absolutely everything from end to end.
Yes. So, do you have any advice for the audience? What is an effective obsolescence strategy?
To manage components from end to end, to look at their life cycle, to manage their lead times that you see in the market so that you can avoid line stops and those sorts of things. But there's a view in the market that the only way to manage and to continue to supply obsolete components is to use the grey market, to use the unauthorized sources. Actually, there is a different way. There are authorized sources out there who can still support those products, those component needs, after the manufacturer stops. So they're the ones that are absolutely in control of that product from the point it leaves the manufacturer, the semiconductor manufacturer. It's stored and controlled, and therefore the risk is massively reduced. And if you add on top of that the chance that you can also build semiconductors after those manufacturers finish, then you really have something that could cover the full life cycle of your end equipment for 20 years, let's imagine.
You're working for Rochester, like I
Yes.
mentioned. What does the company do to help the customers?
We are authorized. That's the first thing to say. It means that we work with all of the semiconductor manufacturers, 70 or more of them in the world, and they authorize us to support their products and their customers for the long term. That means that they share a huge amount of data with us as well as the components. In some cases, we're building products now that were made end of life 20 years ago, and we're still building them like they were new. So if you can engage with someone who is authorized, it takes away a huge amount of risk from your decisions, your purchasing decisions in the future, and your sourcing problems, third-party testing, all of that goes away if you can deal and find someone who has an authorized connection with the manufacturer.
And maybe you can give us, from your point, what is the future of obsolescence management?
At least the word is being now used in common currency. People are talking about obsolescence now probably more than they ever have done. That's probably because they've had their fingers burnt, but hey, they've come to the party late, that's fine. If they really want to manage obsolescence properly, they have to build an obsolescence strategy into their new designs. You have to look at every component, the supplier of those components, and try and work out whether they will closely match the product life cycles you have. And more than anything, in the past, obsolescence was regarded as a problem that came onto the table at the last minute, unexpectedly, and it was someone's problem, but it wasn't quite clear who it was to deal with it. Normally it was purchasing who ends up trying to solve obsolescence. So you have purchasing, you have component engineering, quality, and even the design group as a group of resources with nothing else but obsolescence, mitigation, and management. If you do that, then you're not going to get caught out, and you're not going to have the unexpected thrown upon you. Okay?
So thank you very much, Ken.
Pleasure.
Maybe you have a few minutes if anyone have questions.
Yeah.
So thank you.